Helena Vasquez stood in chains at the center of the Great Council chamber. The restraints were heavy, cold, and deliberately visible. Less a method of control and more a message. Above her, the chamber stretched into impossible height, filled with thousands of alien delegates suspended in tiered platforms that circled the vast space like a judgment made physical. Every eye was on her. And not all of those eyes were even shaped the same. Some species watched through clusters of lenses, others through smooth, featureless faces. Some did not appear to have faces at all, only shifting patterns in the air, where perception itself seemed to bend. Yet despite their differences, they all shared a single, unified presence. They had already decided what she was, and what she deserved. Helena did not lower her head. The human ambassador stood tall despite the bindings around her wrists and ankles, her posture steady in a way that refused to acknowledge fear as the final authority in the room. 3 years. That was how long she had stood between Earth and the rest of the galaxy. 3 years of negotiations, compromises, cultural translations, and emergency mediations. 3 years of trying to prove humanity belonged among them. And now she stood here instead. Not as a bridge, but as an example. High Counselor Zuthkar of the Zetherian Empire rose slowly from his suspended throne. His body shimmered with deep blue bioluminescent markings that pulsed like ancient code written into flesh. No amplification systems were needed. His voice filled the chamber naturally, as if the structure itself had been designed to obey him. The entity known as Helena Vasquez stands accused, he declared, of the highest crimes recognized under Concord law. A ripple moved through the assembly. Not surprise. Anticipation. The kind that comes right before something is officially ended. Helena finally looked up at him. Not pleading. Not afraid. Just listening. Because somewhere deep in her mind, she already knew this trial was not about guilt. It was about permission, he announced. She has broken the sacred accord. Her species has spread beyond their allowed territory. They have built colonies on 17 worlds without permission. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. The crystalline Vorak collective chimed their agreement in musical tones. The gas-dwelling Namari made hissing sounds that meant approval in their language. Elena tried to speak. Honored Council, we only sought to silence. Vathar's eyes flashed. Your species was granted one system, one small yellow star and its planets. You were told to stay there until you proved worthy of expansion rights. Instead, you spread like a disease. The Vorak representative spoke next. Its crystal body rang like bells as it moved. The humans show the classic signs of a dangerous species. They reproduce quickly. They consume resources without limit. They show aggression toward peaceful neighbors. We never attacked anyone, Elena said, her voice carrying across the chamber. Every world we settled was empty. We brought life to dead planets. Lies, hissed Namari Ambassador Uthil from within his gas tank. Our sensors detected weapons on your colonies. Military installations disguised as research stations. Elena felt her heartbeat faster. They had discovered some of humanity's preparations. Not all, she hoped, but enough to be dangerous. She had to try to protect her species one more time. Those were defensive measures only. We learned from history that the galaxy can be dangerous. We wanted to protect our families, our children. Any species would do the same. Zathar laughed, a sound like grinding metal. Your species has existed for barely 50,000 years. The Zeperian Empire has ruled for over 2 million years. We know danger when we see it. Humanity is that danger. The trial, if it could be called that, continued for 2 more hours. Other council members spoke about humanity's crimes. They talked about human ships seen in restricted space. They mentioned human traders asking too many questions about military bases and government centers. They listed every human colony and called each one a violation of galactic law. Elena defended her people as best she could. She spoke of human art, music, and literature. She told them about human kindness, how her species helped each other in times of need. She explained human curiosity, their desire to explore and learn. The council did not care. Finally, Zethkar stood for the last time. The judgment is clear. The human species represents a clear threat to galactic peace and order. They must be stopped before they can spread further. The ambassador will die as a warning to her people. Her homeworld will be placed under strict quarantine. Any human ship that leaves their system will be destroyed. Elena closed her eyes for a moment. She had known this would happen. Earth's leaders had prepared her for this possibility. She touched the small device hidden in her teeth. It was no bigger than a grain of rice, but it would send a signal that could change everything. "Before you pass your sentence," she said, "I want to say something to my people." Tsar waved a dismissive hand. "Speak your last words, human. Let the galaxy hear the pleading of a doomed species." Elena looked directly into the recording devices that broadcast across thousands of worlds. Every major planet would see this moment. Every species would witness what happened here. That was exactly what she wanted. "My fellow humans," she began, "they are going to kill me now. They call us dangerous. They call us a threat. They say we must be stopped." Her voice grew stronger with each word. "They are right to fear us." Confused whispers began in the chamber. This was not the begging they expected. "We offered them friendship. We offered them cooperation. We came here with open hands and peaceful hearts. But they have chosen to see us as enemies." Elena smiled, and for the first time, it was not a diplomat's smile. It was something else entirely. "You have no idea what you have just awakened." She bit down hard on the device in her teeth. It cracked and dissolved, releasing chemicals that her body quickly absorbed. The signal went out instantly, traveling faster than light through quantum channels that the Council did not even know existed. Across the galaxy on dozens of worlds in hundreds of hidden locations, humans received a simple message. "Protocol Omega is now active." Sethkar snarled. "Enough of this theater. Execute the human." The Namari executioner moved forward, its weapon charged and ready. Elena did not try to run or beg. She stood straight and looked at the Council one last time. "My death changes nothing," she said. "You still do not understand what humanity really is. You think we are weak because we tried peace first. You think we are few because you only see our diplomats and traitors. You think you know us because you watched us for 3 years." The weapon powered up with a high whining sound. "You are wrong about everything," Elena whispered. The energy beam struck her chest. Elena Vasquez, first human ambassador to the Galactic Council, died instantly. Her body fell to the chamber floor with a soft thud. The council members nodded in satisfaction. The human threat had been dealt with. Their executioner would be broadcast across human space as a warning. The dangerous species would be contained in their single system until they could be properly dealt with. Sethar gestured to his aides. "Send word to our fleets. Begin the blockade of the human system. Any ship that tries to leave is to be destroyed immediately. We will deal with this species properly when we have time." But deep in space, far from the council chamber, things were already changing. Human ships that had been catalogued as harmless cargo vessels began to power up systems that were not supposed to exist. Research stations on distant worlds started transmitting on frequencies the Council had never detected. Sleeper agents who had lived among alien populations for years opened sealed orders they had hoped never to receive. The signal Elena had sent was simple, but its meaning was clear to every human who received it. "They have chosen war. Give them what they want." In the council chamber, the representatives were already turning to other business. The human problem was solved. They had more important things to discuss. They had no idea that Elena Vasquez had just started the countdown to the end of their galaxy. President Cheney sat in the emergency meeting room deep below the surface of Earth. The room had no windows, no decorations, nothing except a large table and 20 chairs. Around the table sat the most powerful humans in the world. They had been called here within an hour of Elena's death. Chen looked at the faces around the table. Some showed anger, others showed grief. A few showed fear. Defense Minister Jackson was red with rage. Foreign Secretary Morrison was quietly crying. They had all known Elena personally. She had been Earth's best diplomat, chosen specially for the mission to the Galactic Council. "Ladies and gentlemen," Chen began, "we are here because our ambassador is dead. The aliens have rejected every attempt at peaceful contact. They have threatened to destroy any human ship that leaves our solar system. This is murder." Jackson slammed his fist on the table. "They killed an innocent woman whose only crime was representing her species. We should respond with force immediately." "With what force?" asked Secretary Morrison. "We have maybe 50 ships in our entire space fleet. They have thousands. Our weapons are barely capable of interplanetary travel. Their technology is thousands of years ahead of ours." Chen listened to the argument that followed. It was exactly what he had expected. Most of the civilian leaders wanted to try more diplomacy. Some wanted to hide and hope the aliens would forget about Earth. Others wanted to fight despite the impossible odds. None of them knew the truth. Chen looked at Admiral Sarah Torres, who sat quietly at the end of the table. She was a small woman with gray hair and calm eyes. She had said nothing during the entire meeting. Most people in the room forgot she was there. That was exactly how she liked it. Admiral Torres, Chen said, you have been unusually quiet. What is your assessment of our situation? Torres stood up slowly. She walked to a wall panel and placed her hand on it. The scanner read her fingerprints, her palm print, her DNA, and something else that no one in the room knew about. The panel beeped softly and slid away. Behind it was another control panel, covered in switches and buttons that no one recognized. Ladies and gentlemen, Torres said quietly, it is time you learned what humanity really is. She pressed a series of buttons. The lights in the room dimmed, and holographic displays appeared in the air above the table. The first display showed a map of human-controlled space. Everyone gasped. The map did not show one solar system. It showed over 200 systems stretching across a third of the galaxy. Green dots marked human colonies, military bases, and research stations. Red dots showed alien military installations. Yellow dots showed alien government centers. This is impossible, whispered Secretary Morrison. We only have 17 colonies, and they are all in nearby systems. 17 official colonies, Torres corrected. What you are seeing now are our actual territorial holdings. Humanity has been expanding for 25 years. Every cargo ship and research vessel that left Earth carried teams of colonists and soldiers. Every scientific mission was actually a military scouting operation. Foreign Secretary Morrison stared at the display. But the aliens knew about our colonies. They said so at Elena's trial. They knew about the ones we wanted them to find, Torres replied. We built obvious colonies with obvious defenses. We let them discover 17 settlements that looked like normal human expansion. Meanwhile, we built 183 hidden bases in systems they never thought to check. President Chen leaned forward. He had known some of this, but not the full extent. Admiral, explain to everyone what we have been doing for the past 25 years. Torres pressed another button. The display changed to show human military assets. The numbers were staggering. Operation Deeproot began the day after first contact with alien life, Torres explained. We knew this day would come. We knew that, when aliens found Earth, they would either accept us as equals or try to destroy us. We prepared for both possibilities. She pointed to clusters of red dots near alien worlds. Every major alien planet has been mapped. Every military base, every government center, every important facility. We know their defensive capabilities, their fleet positions, and their supply lines. We have been watching them while they thought they were watching us. Defense Minister Jackson looked confused, but Elena went to them peacefully. We tried diplomacy first. Elena's mission was genuine. Torres said, we hoped for peace. Elena hoped for peace. But she also knew that if diplomacy failed, her death would trigger our backup plan. Torres pressed another button. A new display appeared, showing human agents scattered across the galaxy. For 20 years, we have been placing our people in alien societies. They work as traders, researchers, mechanics, servants. The aliens see them as harmless humans trying to make a living. In reality, they are deep cover operatives. They have been gathering intelligence, mapping targets, and preparing for this moment. The room fell silent. Finally, Secretary Morrison spoke in a whisper. How many agents do we have out there? 12,000, Torres replied. Each one trained for 20 years for this mission. Each one equipped with weapons and equipment that alien scanners cannot detect. Each one ready to activate on my signal. President Chen stood up. Admiral, what exactly are you asking us to authorize? Torres looked at each person in the room. Elena's death signal activated Protocol Omega. Our agents are awaiting orders. Our hidden fleets are powering up. Our secret bases are preparing for war. The question is simple. Do we give the aliens what they want? What they want, asked Morrison. They want to see humanity as a dangerous, aggressive species, Torres explained. They want to believe we are a threat to galactic peace. They want to justify destroying us by making us into monsters. Her voice grew cold. I suggest we give them exactly what they expect. The display changed one more time. Now it showed detailed battle plans, strike coordinates, and timets. The scope was breathtaking. Every major alien world would be hit simultaneously. Every important military installation would be destroyed within the first hour. The entire galactic government would collapse before they could even send a distress signal. "This is genocide," whispered Foreign Secretary Morrison. "No," Torres corrected. "This is survival. They chose to make us enemies. Elena tried to make us friends, and they killed her for it. Now they get to see what humanity looks like when we stop pretending to be harmless." President Chen looked around the room. Every face showed shock, fear, or awe. These were good people, peaceful people. They had spent their careers trying to build a better world through diplomacy and cooperation. Now they were being asked to authorize the destruction of entire civilizations. "How long do we have to decide?" Chen asked. "The signal has already been sent," Torres replied. "Our agents received their activation codes when Elena died. They are waiting for final strike authorization. If I do not send the abort code within 6 hours, they will assume Earth has been destroyed and proceed with full operational parameters." Chen felt the weight of his species' future on his shoulders. "And if we send the abort code, we wait for the aliens to come and kill us all," Torres said simply. "They have already decided we are too dangerous to live." Elena's execution was their declaration of war. The only question now is whether we fight back or die quietly. The room fell silent again. Chen looked at each person around the table. He saw fear in their eyes, but also determination. They were leaders of Earth, and Earth was in danger. "All in favor of authorizing Protocol Omega," Chen said quietly. Every hand went up. Torres nodded and walked back to her control panel. She entered a long code, placed her hand on a scanner, and spoke clearly into a microphone. "Authorization Alpha 77. Execute Protocol Omega. Full strike authorization granted. May God forgive us all." Across the galaxy, 12,000 human agents received a simple message. The hunt begins now. Captain Thex Mori of the Zephyrian Defense Fleet was drinking his morning nutrition fluid when his world ended. He was on the bridge of the flagship Eternal Glory, orbiting high above Zephyr Prime. The massive warship was over 2 kilometers long and carried enough weapons to destroy small moons. Around it floated the pride of the Zephyrian fleet, 48 heavy cruisers, 112 destroyers, and over 300 smaller ships. It was the most powerful defensive force in the known galaxy. Nothing could threaten the Ezepyrian homeworld, while this fleet protected it. That was what Theoxmore believed until the human cargo ship opened fire. The ship had been sitting in space for 3 days, waiting for permission to dock at the commercial station. Its registration showed it as the merchant vessel Happy Trader, carrying grain and manufactured goods from human space. The ship was small, ugly, and completely harmless. When it suddenly unfolded like a metal flower, Theoxmore nearly choked on his drink. The cargo sections fell away, revealing massive weapon systems. The ship's length tripled as hidden sections extended. Armor plating slid into place, covering sections that had looked like simple storage areas. Within 60 seconds, the harmless merchant ship had become a battleship larger than anything in the Zephyrian fleet. "All ships, target that human vessel," shouted into his communicator. "Fire at will." But before his ships could respond, the human ship fired first. Beams of energy more powerful than anything the Zephyrians had ever seen lanced out from the transformed vessel. Each beam struck a Zephyrian warship and cut completely through it. Armor that was supposed to stop planet-killing weapons offered no protection at all. 12 Zephyrian cruisers died in the first salvo. "Impossible," whispered Thex Mori. "Those weapons do not exist. No species has that kind of power." His weapons officer looked up from his station, face pale with fear. "Captain, I am detecting 17 more human ships in our sensor range. They are all powering up similar weapons. 17 ships cannot defeat a fleet of over 500. Thexy snarled. "Continue the attack." But even as he spoke, more human ships were revealing themselves. What had looked like asteroid mining operations suddenly sprouted weapon turrets. Space stations that were supposed to be processing plants opened hidden launch bays and released swarms of fighters. Even the small research satellites that humans had scattered throughout the system began firing missiles. The Zephyrian fleet had been surrounded for months without knowing it. The battle, if it could be called that, lasted exactly 11 minutes and 43 seconds. When it was over, the mighty Zephyrian defense fleet was nothing but debris floating in space. Only Captain Thex Mori's ship survived, and only because the humans wanted someone left alive to deliver a message. A transmission came from the lead human ship. The face that appeared on Thex's screen was calm and professional. The human looked like any other member of their species. 2 eyes, small mouth, brownish skin. But there was something in those eyes that made Thex Mori's blood freeze. "Captain Thexmore," the human said in perfect Zaffiran language, "I am Commander Sarah Kim of the Terran Defense Force. You are alive because we need you to carry a message to your government." "What? What do you want?" the Mori managed to ask. "We want you to remember that you started this," Commander Kim replied. "Your people executed our ambassador. Your people declared war on humanity. Now you get to see what war with humans actually means." The transmission ended, and the human ships began to move toward Zephyr Prime itself. Similar scenes were playing out across the galaxy. On Vorak Collective Worlds, the crystalline beings watched in horror as their orbital defense platforms were destroyed by weapons they had never seen before. The humans had somehow learned to disrupt the harmonic frequencies that held Vorthak technology together. Their ships fell apart like musical instruments with broken strings. In the gas clouds of Nayari space, the floating cities that housed millions of beings began to fall from the sky. Human ships fired strange weapons that changed the chemical composition of the gases that kept the cities aloft. Within hours, proud civilizations that had existed for thousands of years crashed into the crushing depths of their gas giant worlds. But the humans did not just attack military targets. They attacked something much more important. They attacked the truth. Every alien communication system in the galaxy suddenly began broadcasting the same thing: videos, documents, and recordings that the Council had kept secret for centuries. The galaxy watched in shock as evidence of Council crimes spread across every planet. The Zephyran Empire had been secretly poisoning the atmospheres of younger species worlds to keep them weak and dependent. The Vorak Collective had been stealing technology from member species and claiming it as their own. The Namari had been using their gas processing abilities to create deadly weapons, then selling them to both sides of conflicts to keep wars going longer. The Council had been doing these things for over 1,000,000 years, and now everyone knew. On the industrial world of Kothva, the local population rose up against their Zephyrian governors after learning that their children had been deliberately infected with diseases to keep them from growing too intelligent. On the crystal world of Hearth, the Vorak had been draining energy from the planet's core to power their war machines, slowly killing the world that billions called home. The evidence was overwhelming, and it had all come from human sources. Dr. Elena Vasquez had not been Earth's only representative to the galaxy. For 20 years, human intelligence agents had been collecting proof of every Council crime. They had waited for the right moment to release it all at once. That moment was now. Admiral Torres sat in her command center on Earth, watching reports flood in from across the galaxy. Her screen showed burning Council worlds, surrendering alien fleets, and civilian populations turning against their governments. "Phase 1 is complete," reported her aide. "All primary military targets have been neutralized. Council fleet strength has been reduced by 87% in the first 4 hours, and the information campaign exceeding expectations. We are receiving surrender requests from 43 independent systems. 17 Council member species have declared independence and are requesting human protection." Torres nodded. It was going exactly as planned. Humanity had studied the galaxy for 25 years. They knew every weakness, every hidden resentment, every secret that could destroy the Council's authority. The aliens had thought they were fighting a primitive species that had barely learned to travel between stars. Instead, they were fighting a race that had turned warfare into a science, and politics into a weapon. "What are our casualty reports?" Torres asked. "Minimal. We have lost 12 ships and approximately 300 personnel. Enemy casualties are estimated at over 2 million. Torres felt no satisfaction at those numbers. Every dead alien represented someone's family, someone's friend. But the Council had made this choice when they decided humanity was too dangerous to live. Now they were learning that they had been right about one thing. Humanity was dangerous. The difference was that humans were dangerous by choice, not by nature. They had offered friendship first. They had tried peace. They had sent their best diplomat to speak for them. When the galaxy responded by executing that diplomat, humanity had shown them what they looked like when they stopped trying to be peaceful. "Send a message to all Council worlds," Torres ordered. "Any planet that surrenders now will be spared. Any species that continues to resist will be dealt with accordingly, and if they ask what dealt with accordingly means, Torres looked at the tactical display showing human forces moving toward the remaining Council strongholds. Each red dot represented a target that would soon cease to exist. "Tell them to ask the Zaffiran Defense Fleet," she said quietly. High Counselor Zar ran through the burning corridors of his palace, trying to reach the emergency bunker. Behind him, he could hear the sounds of his guards dying as human soldiers moved through his home like ghosts. 3 weeks had passed since the first human attacks. 3 weeks of watching his empire crumble piece by piece. The humans did not fight like any enemy he had ever faced. They did not want to conquer territory or steal resources. They wanted something much worse. They wanted to destroy everything the Council had ever built. Zathar reached the bunker door and pressed his hand to the scanner. The massive door began to slide open, its ancient mechanisms grinding slowly. Almost there. Just a few more seconds, and he would be safe behind armor thick enough to stop starship weapons. A human voice spoke from the shadows behind him. "Going somewhere, Counselor?" Zathar spun around. A human woman stepped out of an alcove that should have been empty. She was small, wearing simple clothes that looked like servant garments. In her hand was a weapon that looked like a child's toy. "You," he whispered, "you are the cleaning woman. You have worked in this palace for 5 years. Agent Sarah Martinez, Terran Intelligence," the woman corrected. "And I have been waiting 5 years for this moment." Zathar looked at the bunker door. It was almost fully open now. If he could just reach it before she fired. "I would not recommend it," Martinez said calmly. "This weapon fires plasma rounds that will cut through your natural armor like paper. You will be dead before you take 2 steps. "What do you want?" Sethkar asked. "I want you to understand something," Martinez replied. "For 5 years, I cleaned your floors. I emptied your waste containers. I served food to your guests. And every day, I watched you plan the deaths of innocent people." She gestured to a wall screen that was showing news from across the galaxy. Council worlds were surrendering by the dozen. Alien civilians were cheering as human forces liberated them from Council rule. The great empire that Zar's ancestors had built over millions of years was dying in a matter of weeks. "Your species could have been our friends," Martinez continued. "Elena Vasquez came to you with open hands and peaceful words. She offered you partnership, trade, cultural exchange, all the good things that different species can share. Your species is dangerous." Zathar snarled. "We had to protect the galaxy from you." "Dangerous?" Martinez laughed. But there was no humor in the sound. "Counselor, let me tell you what dangerous really means. Dangerous means we spent 20 years learning everything about your species, your biology, your psychology, your fears, your weaknesses." She pressed a button on her weapon. The display changed to show biological readouts and psychological profiles. "We know that Zephyrians become terrified when exposed to high-frequency sounds. We know that your reproduction depends on specific atmospheric conditions. We know that your entire species has a genetic weakness to certain viruses." Zaffar's eyes widened in fear. "We could have killed every Zephyrian in the galaxy with a single biological weapon," Martinez said quietly. "We could have destroyed your homeworld with sonic weapons that would drive your people insane. We could have made your species extinct within a month, and no one would have known we did it." "Then why have you not done it?" Zakar whispered. "Because we are not monsters," Martinez replied. "We are human. When someone attacks us, we defend ourselves. But we do not commit genocide unless we have no other choice." She moved closer and Zathar could see something in her eyes that frightened him more than her weapon. "But you made a mistake, Counselor. You killed Elena. She was not just our ambassador. She was our conscience. She was the voice that reminded us to be better than our enemies." The weapon powered up with a soft humming sound. "Now that voice is gone, and you are about to learn what humanity looks like when we stop listening to our conscience." Similar conversations were happening, wang across the galaxy. On every council world and every government building and every military base, humans who had been hiding in plain sight for years were revealing themselves. They were not just soldiers and spies. They were teachers, doctors, mechanics, cooks, clerks. They had been living among the aliens, learning their secrets, gaining their trust. Now they were using that trust to destroy everything the Council had built. On the Vorak homeworld, a human researcher named Dr. James Chen walked into the central resonance chamber that controlled all Vorak technology on the planet. For 3 years, he had worked as an assistant to the chief harmonic engineer. The Vorak had taught him their most secret knowledge. Believing he was just a curious alien, scientist Dr. Chen placed a small device next to the main harmonic crystal. The device was no bigger than his thumb, but it contained technology that the Vorak could never understand. When activated, it would change the frequency of their central crystal by exactly 0.00003%. Such a small change, but it would cause every piece of Vorthak technology on the planet to stop working. Their lights would go out, their transportation would fail, their communication systems would go silent, and their life support systems would shut down, leaving 10 billion Vorthak to suffocate in their crystal cities. But Dr. Chen did not activate the device. Instead, he sent a message to the Vorak government. You have 1 hour to surrender unconditionally. If you do not, this planet will become uninhabitable. Choose wisely. The Vorak leadership lasted 37 minutes before they sent their surrender. In the gas clouds of Namari space, similar scenes were playing out. Human agents revealed that they had been slowly changing the chemical composition of the gas that the Namari breathed. It had taken years, but now every major Namari world was dependent on a specific mixture that only humans could produce. Stop. The supply and the Namari would die within days. The Namari government surrendered without even trying to fight. This was not war as the galaxy understood it. This was something much more sophisticated and terrifying. The humans had turned the aliens' own trust against them. Every act of kindness the aliens had shown to human visitors had been used to gather intelligence. Every secret the aliens had shared with human researchers had become a weapon. Admiral Torres watched the surrender reports come in from her command center. Her strategy was working perfectly. The aliens were not being defeated by superior firepower or advanced technology. They were being defeated by superior planning and preparation. Ma'am, her communications officer reported, we are receiving surrender offers from 86 Council worlds. They are requesting terms. What terms are they offering? Torres asked. Complete capitulation. They want to know what tribute we require, what territory we claim, and what restrictions we will place on their governments. Torres smiled grimly. The aliens still did not understand what was happening. Send the same reply to all of them, she ordered. We do not want their territory. We do not want their resources. We do not want tribute or slaves, or anything they think we might value. Then what do we want? Torres looked at the tactical display, showing the locations of every human force in the galaxy. Her people were everywhere now, no longer hiding, no longer pretending to be harmless traders and researchers. We want them to remember, she said. We want every alien child to grow up knowing what happens when you kill a human ambassador. We want every alien government to think very carefully before they threaten humanity again. She pressed a button and spoke into the galaxy-wide communication system that humans now controlled. This is Admiral Saratres of the Terran Defense Force, speaking to all surviving members of the Galactic Council. Your empire is finished. Your fleets are destroyed. Your worlds are under our control. But we are not conquerors. We are teachers. Her words were broadcast to every planet in Council space. You will learn to govern yourselves fairly. You will learn to treat other species with respect. You will learn to resolve conflicts with words instead of weapons. And most importantly, you will learn that humanity is not your enemy unless you choose to make us your enemy. The transmission ended, but Torres was not finished. She had one more lesson to teach the galaxy. She opened a channel to Earth and spoke to President Chen. Mr. President, Phase 4 is complete. We now control 93% of former Council territory. Recommend proceeding to Phase 5. Approved. Admiral, show them what benevolent conquest looks like. 2 years later, Ambassador Sarah Chen stood in the exact spot where Elena Vasquez had died. The Great Council chamber looked very different now. The ancient seats that had held alien rulers for millions of years were empty. In their place was a simple desk, where Chen conducted the daily business of governing the galaxy. The massive room that had once echoed with the voices of 1,000 different species now served as a courthouse, where disputes between alien worlds were settled peacefully. Chen wore the same diplomatic uniform that Elena had worn, but with one addition. Pinned to her chest was Elena's ambassador insignia. Recovered from the chamber floor after her execution, it served as a reminder of what happened when diplomacy failed. Next case, Chen announced. 2 groups of aliens approached them. Desk. On the left were representatives of the Kaith species, small reptilian beings from the Outer Rim. On the right were Zephyrian officials, their blue skin marked with scars from the war. State your dispute, In said, in the calm tone she had learned from studying Elena's old speeches. The Kith representative spoke first. "Honored Ambassador, the Zephyrians are demanding tribute from our mining operations. They claim ancient rights to our system's resources." The Zephyrian official stepped forward. "The KE system was part of our empire for 50,000 years. We developed those mining operations. We have legal claim to stop," Chen interrupted gently. "Under the Terran peace accords, no species may claim tribute from another based on historical conquest. The K system belongs to the K people." Case dismissed. The Zephyrian official looked shocked. "But we need those resources to rebuild our worlds." "Then trade for them," Chen replied. "Offer the Kaith something they need in exchange for mining." "Rights. That is how civilized species interact." She turned to the K representative. "The Zephyrians have excellent construction technology. Your people need help rebuilding after the Council Wars. Perhaps an exchange can be arranged." Both groups looked surprised. They had expected the human to simply impose a decision. Instead, she was helping them find a solution that worked for everyone. After the court session ended, Chen walked through the corridors of what had once been the Council's seat of power. The walls still showed scorch marks from the day human forces had taken the station. But the damage was being repaired not by human workers, but by aliens working together. She stopped at a window overlooking the great shipyard that surrounded the station. Where Council warships had once been built, the aliens were now constructing hospital ships, research vessels, and cargo transports. The galaxy was learning to build things that helped instead of hurt. "Ambassador Chen." She turned to see Admiral Torres approaching. The military leader looked older than she had 2 years ago. The burden of conquest had not been easy for any of them. "Admiral, how are the integration programs proceeding?" "Better than expected," Torres replied. "The Vorak Collective has adapted well to self-governance. Their crystal cities are more productive now that they are not sending tribute to Zephyr Prime. The Namari have established trade agreements with 17 species. Even some of the former council members are beginning to prosper." They walked together toward Chen's office. Along the way, they passed aliens from dozens of different species working together on various projects. It was a sight that would have been impossible under council rule, where each species had been kept separate and suspicious of the others and the resistance movements. Chen asked. Torres's expression darkened. "Still active on 12 worlds. Some of the old council loyalists refuse to accept the new order. They are organizing attacks on human facilities and alien governments that cooperate with us. Casualties light so far, but they are getting bolder. Last week, they attempted to poison the atmosphere on New Keth. If our sensors had not detected it," Chen nodded grimly. This was the part of ruling a galaxy that Elena's diplomatic training had not prepared her for. There were always those who preferred the old ways, even when the old ways meant suffering for billions of people. "What do you recommend?" "Give me permission to end this permanently," Torres said quietly. "I can have every resistance cell eliminated. Within a month, the galaxy would be peaceful." "At what cost?" Torres was quiet for a moment. "Perhaps 50,000 lives. All of them people who have chosen to fight against peace and justice." Chen stopped walking. "The Admiral, do you remember why we fought this war?" "Because they killed Elena." "Before that, why did Elena go to the council in the first place?" Torres thought about it. "To offer them friendship. To show them that humanity could be trusted. And if we start killing people who disagree with us, what does that make us?" Torres looked out the window at the alien workers building their new future. "It makes us the council." "Exactly. We did not fight this war to become the thing we destroyed. We fought it to build something better." They continued to Chen's office, where reports from across the galaxy waited for her attention. Food production was up on most worlds. Disease rates were down. Trade between species had increased by 400% in just 2 years. The numbers were impressive, but Chen knew they only told part of the story. The real story was in the smaller details. Schools where alien children learned about other species instead of fearing them. Hospitals where Zephyrian doctors worked alongside Namari nurses to save Vorthak patients. Research stations where the greatest minds of different species worked together to solve problems that had plagued the galaxy for centuries. "Ambassador," her assistant announced, "you have a visitor. First contact with a new species." Chen looked up in surprise. "New species from where?" "The Outer Rim, beyond the old council borders. They call themselves the Theic. They are requesting permission to establish trade relations." Chen felt her heart race. This was the moment she had been preparing for since taking office. How humanity handled first contact with new species would determine what kind of galactic government they would become. Send them in. The alien who entered her office was unlike anything Chen had ever seen. It looked like a cross between a spider and a tree with bark-like skin and multiple limbs that ended in delicate manipulator organs. Its voice was like wind through leaves. "Honored Ambassador," the being said, "I am Speaker Velthon of the Thack Confederacy. We have heard much about the new rulers of this galaxy. We come to learn if the stories are true." "What stories have you heard?" Chen asked carefully. "We heard that the old council, which enslaved 1,000 species, has been replaced by a single species that conquered the galaxy in a matter of weeks. We heard that these new rulers execute anyone who opposes them and force the survivors to work in slavery." Chen felt cold. If that was how humanity was being seen by species beyond their borders, everything they had worked for was meaningless. "Those stories are not accurate," she said. "May I show you what we have actually built here?" She activated a holographic display that showed the current state of former council space. Every world was color-coded to show its status. Green meant prosperous and peaceful. Yellow meant recovering but stable. Red meant still experiencing problems. The display was mostly green and yellow. As you can see, most of our worlds are doing better now than they were under council rule. Would you like to visit some of them and see for yourself? Speaker Velton studied the display with several of its eyes, while keeping others focused. "Onchen, you would allow us to travel freely through your territory to speak with your subjects without supervision." "They are not our subjects," Chen corrected. "They are our neighbors. And yes, you may speak with anyone you wish. We have nothing to hide." The alien was quiet for a long time. Finally, it spoke again. "The council would never have made such an offer. They controlled information as tightly as they controlled resources. If you are willing to let us see everything, perhaps the stories we heard were wrong." Chen stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the galaxy continued its work of rebuilding itself into something better. "Speaker Velthon, I want you to understand something. 2 years ago, this galaxy was ruled by fear. Fear of other species, fear of change, fear of anything different. Billions of people lived in poverty, while a few rulers enjoyed wealth and power." She turned back to face the alien visitor. "We did not conquer this galaxy to rule it. We conquered it to free it. Every species that was oppressed under council rule now has the chance to govern itself. Every world that was exploited now keeps its own resources. Every person who was treated as property now has rights that no government can take away. And if we choose not to join your Terran hegemony," the alien asked. Chen smiled, and for the first time since taking office, it was entirely genuine. "Then you go home to your people and continue living your lives as you choose. We will not force anyone to join us. We will not threaten anyone who prefers independence. We offer friendship to those who want it, and respect to those who do not." She walked back to her desk and picked up Elena's insignia. "This belonged to our first ambassador to the galaxy. She came here offering peace and friendship. She was executed for her efforts. We could have responded with revenge and hatred. Instead, we chose to build the galaxy she dreamed of." Speaker Velthon looked at the insignia, then at Chen's face. "May I ask you one more question, Ambassador?" "Of course."